Nick Candy says he didn't give George Cottrell an £8.5 million house. He says that Cottrell bought shares in the company that owned it and paid off a loan. Okay, fine. Except the land registry says Cottrell owns the property outright, in his own name, no company in between. So those two accounts cannot be both true, and one of them comes from a public record that doesn't have a reputation to protect. That's the smallest contradiction in this story. It just kind of gets worse from there.
He's taken £5 million from Christopher Harborne. He's got a man called Posh George seemingly propping him up and allowing him to stay in his near Buckingham Palace mansion, which incidentally he seems to have bought off Nick Candy, who is Reform's honorary treasurer. Can you not see that some of this just looks a bit iffy?
No, to you it might do, well, and the Westminster establishment.
Well,
you know the shape of this by now if you've watched the last couple of videos and pretty much not living under a rock. George Cottrell, convicted of wire fraud in the US in 2017, funded Nigel Farage's staff, security and accommodation in the run-up to the 2024 election. Farage registered one benefit, a £9,253 Belgium trip, and nothing else. Reform's defence, delivered identically across 3 separate broadcasters this week, was that it's all personal, all before Farage was an MP, nothing to see here, move along.
Because we believe that people should govern in the national interest, not in the financial interests of themselves or their supporters.
I wasn't in politics.
But it does rub up against the idea that Reform was saying yesterday that this is purely personal and purely down to their friendship. You've got to remember as well that, yeah, Nigel Farage wasn't running to be the MP for Clacton when this happened, but he was the honorary president of the party and the majority shareholder of the party as well. Reform and Nigel Farage are interlinked, and that's the issue.
Now, that's not just us saying it. That's a Times Radio reporter independently landing on exactly the same point about Farage's ownership of Reform that we made a couple of days ago. 2 separate people looking at exactly the same company's house filing and reaching exactly the same conclusion isn't coincidence. Just what happens when you check. And there's a physical object now that makes the unpaid volunteer or no formal role line look even thinner. Cottrell was reportedly handing out business cards with Reform's UK branding and Farage's actual work email address printed on them. Reform's explanation is that this just made it easier for donors to get in touch. Okay, yeah, sure, plenty of unpaid volunteers with no formal role get their own cards with the party logo and the boss's private email on them. I mean, yeah, it's totally standard practice. But Farage can't even get his story straight. Farage said publicly that the $5 million he received from Christopher Harborne was needed to pay for his personal security.
That I will need protection until I die.
Right.
I've no idea how long that will be. None of us do. But I know that it's damned expensive, and I now don't have to worry or even think about that because repeatedly over the years, when I've asked for help from the state, I've been refused.
Robert Jenrick, defending all of this on the BBC, was asked why Cottrell was funding that exact same security before Harborne money arrived. And, well, this was his answer.
Did George Cottrell pay for Nigel Farage's security in 2024?
Before he became a member of Parliament.
Confusing.
Really care
What's
about.
confusing about this issue of security is that Nigel Farage said that the money from Christopher Harborne was for his personal security.
But that came after this, Laura.
So you are convinced that absolutely nothing has gone wrong here?
Absolutely no rules have been broken.
Now, if you listen carefully to what he actually said there, that's Jenrick's own words doing the damage, not a journalist's clever framing. If Cottrell was already covering security, what was the $5 million actually needed for? Jenrick didn't get tricked into saying that. He said it while trying to explain something else and handed over the contradiction for free. Even people whose job it is just to report on this, not campaign against it, noticed. Times Radio own reporter summed up Jenrick's morning pretty much like this.
After Robert Jenrick was on the broadcast airwaves yesterday, essentially confirming every single fact of the story. So
now to the Candy story properly, because this is bigger than one strange transaction. Reform's honorary treasurer, billionaire property developer who arranged Farage's meeting with Elon Musk at Mar-a-Lago, transferred an £8.5 million Chelsea property to Cottrell for a declared price of £0. Candy's explanation is that the shares and loan arrangement mentioned earlier, the land registry version, doesn't match it. When the party's own treasurer is moving an 8-figure property around at a declared value of nothing, old friend helping out stops covering it. And it's not just Cottrell taking the money from people connected to Reform. His family too. Cottrell's mother, Fiona, described herself in a 2023 legal documents as a retired stylist. Last year, she donated £750,000 to Reform UK. becoming one of the party's largest individual donors. The Electoral Commission has declined to release further records on where that money came from. Make of a retired stylist £750,000 whatever you like. Nobody at Reform seems keen to explain it either. Here's the thread that's connecting all of this, though, to something bigger than one family's finances. Cottrell's offshore gambling platform ran on Tether, the stablecoin Christopher Harborne owns a significant stake in. Harborne and Cottrell aren't two unrelated scandals that happen to involve Farage. They're two ends of the same rope. The cryptocurrency and is that rope. Which matters because Reform's built an actual policy on loosening crypto regulation, and Farage personally lobbied the Governor of the Bank of England against a state-backed digital currency.
But you're promoting something that would massively financially benefit a man who gave you £5 million, and you didn't think we deserved to know it.
No, hang on. Number one, I wasn't in politics. Number two, I don't believe there's anything in the rules that says I had to declare it. Number three, of course, it is being investigated by standards, so perhaps I'd better not say too much. And lastly, even if the UK, even if London became a centre for crypto trading, it would still be a minute part of the global market.
So, yeah, draw your own conclusions on where all this interest and who that actually serves. And there's also a pattern, because this is where it stops being about one story and starts being about who Farage surrounds himself for 20 years. Michael Crick wrote Farage's biography and said this on air without being pushed into it.
What is Farage doing associating with this man? Farage has, there are 4 people in Farage's career who've gone to jail for acts of dishonesty, and Cottrell is one of them.
So who are the other 3? Well, there's Ashley Moat, UKIP MEP, elected in 2004, convicted of benefit fraud in 2007, 9 months inside, described the trial judge as a truly dishonest man. Farage's own reaction at the time was that he was disgusted and horrified at the leniency of the sentence, adding if Moat had any shred of integrity left, he'd resign. Moat didn't resign, and in 2015 the same man was convicted again, fraud and money laundering this time, over 400,000 in false European parliamentary expenses claims. 5 years he served. Tom Wise, UKIP MEP for the East of England, also elected in 2004, false accounting and money laundering, sentenced to 2 years in 2009. He denied it right up until the point where it became clear Farage himself was going to give evidence against him at trial. Then he confessed. Nathan Gill, leader of Reform UK Limited Wales, was recently as 2021. In November of 2025, he was sentenced to 10.5 years for taking bribes from pro-Russian Ukrainian politician to make pro-Russia statements in the European Parliament. Farage's response was to call him a bad apple who had betrayed him, which is the same instinct as calling Cottrell an old friend who happened to make a mistake. Distance yourself just enough to seem concerned, not enough to actually address why this keeps happening. 4 people, 2 different parties in name, one continuous political project in practice, spanning UKIP to the Brexit Party to Reform UK Limited. Benefit fraud, expenses fraud, money laundering, foreign bribery, and now an undeclared funding web running through a convicted fraudster, a party's treasurer property empire, and a mother who apparently found £750,000 down the back of a sofa. If you're looking for a single description of the world Farage operates in, that's it. And it's been consistent since before some of his current voters were even old enough to follow politics. There's a version of this where you say everyone gets unlucky with one bad associate. Nobody gets unlucky 4 times across 20 years while building 3 consecutive political parties. And when the reporting gets uncomfortable, the response is the same every time. Instead of engaging with the land registry discrepancy or the business cards and Fiona Cottrell's denotion,
they have gone after Gabriel Pogrund in quite an extraordinary way to go after a man who is a renowned award-winning journalist, and they've gone after him for saying that he's a Labour stooge. Now,
this is the same reporter who broke the Lord Alley donation story and embarrassed Keir Starmer's government. So he's not exactly running cover for Labour. Attacking the messenger isn't rebuttal, it's an admission that there's no rebuttal available. So here's the actual question, and it's Crick's, not mine, because he asked a better one than I could. What kind of world does Farage live in?
What is Farage doing associating with this man? Farage has, there are 4 people in Farage's career who've gone to jail for acts of dishonesty, and Cottrell is one of them. What kind of world does Farage live in, and what kind of world would a Farage government be given these standards of behaviour?
And what does a government built from people he's chosen to keep close actually look like? Not hypothetically. We've had 3 tries already across 3 parties, and an answer keeps coming back the same.